Thank you, man. That was beautiful. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be free of suffering. And may all beings remember who they are. Morning. It's nice to hear some voices coming back. I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit different this morning as we get started with this particular message. I'm going to ask you to set an intention for yourself if you choose to do this. Of course, you don't have to. But to set an intention for yourself that when you walk out of here this morning, you're going to be lighter than when you came in. In other words, there's going to be less stuff that you're holding on to. Whatever that might be for you. Because I don't know about you, but we all came in here with a knapsack full of stuff. From yesterday or the day before, 50 years ago or 70 years ago, whatever it might happen to be. And what I'm going to suggest that you do this morning is to make an intention, open yourself up to the possibility that when I walk out of here this morning, I am going to be lighter than the way I came in. I will guarantee you that will work if you set that intention for yourself. You might not even know what it is that you're letting go of. That doesn't matter. It's not an intellectual trip. It's not sitting down deciding, well, I need to do this and need to do that. Let the Spirit take over. If your intention is there, if your openness is there, to let go of whatever it is that I need to let go of, to heal whatever it is I need to heal, to transform whatever it is I need to transform. If the intention is there, if the openness is there, then it will happen. I guarantee you that. And I know you know that's true, or you wouldn't be here. The theme for this morning is forgiveness. As I was telling Margot a while ago, I said, you know, I could do this for the next 3 or 4 hours or so. This could be an afternoon or an evening or a weekend workshop. So, but I'll still try to limit myself to whatever we've got. I am so full of judgment. My mind is judging every moment of every day. Too tall, too short, too fat, too skinny, too this, too that. On and on. It's endless. Soon as I walk, I say, I don't have to do anything. And then, of course, I turn it on me. Well, that's not enough. That stunk. What'd you do that for? Who told you you could do that? Blah, 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 blah. Can you imagine what it would be like if we just actually took a moment just to listen to that, listen to the channel, listen to the Judgment channel? No wonder I'm exhausted. No wonder I get depressed. No wonder sometimes why little things in life kind of totally upset me or throw me off balance, because it's constantly going on. Whether you're conscious of it or not, it's going on all the time. I don't think I'm the only one. Judgment comes from fear, my need to control. And judgment constantly churns out that message of separation. You're different from me. I'm different from you. Can you imagine if we just stop for a minute and take a look at what judgment does to us? The fear, the separation, the anger, the resentment. It makes everything about somebody or something else and nothing about me. I have no responsibility at all. How easy it is for me to get lost in my judgments. Now, what's really interesting here is that even if you get a little bit more in tune with the New Testament, with Christian Scripture, you'll find out obviously there's a lot of things to talk about love and loving your neighbor, but there's a whole bunch of stuff, probably a secondary category that's almost filled up with the whole thing, the whole idea of non-judgment, or getting away from what judgment does and can do for us or to us. The Holy Spirit has created a way of relieving us of the burden of judgment, and that is called forgiveness. I mean, that's one of the many things forgiveness does, but it's probably one of the chief things that falls into place, is when I am in forgiveness, I cannot be in judgment. And when I am in forgiveness, I release all of the judgments that I've made in the past. I am free of that. Because essentially what forgiveness is, the freedom to love, to relate without judgment, to relate without carrying all this baggage, all these labels that I put on you and put on myself. Can you imagine what it would be like just to be free of that for a minute? Just for a minute. Just for a minute. How else can I live in the present? I can't if I'm carrying the past around with me. It just doesn't work. Now for a moment, rather than defining what forgiveness is, I'd like to take a minute just to get a sense of what it's not. It's not just words. It's not just saying, oh, well, I forgive you because I'm supposed to, because I need to. If it was just words, then it would be a lot easier, but it's not. It's more than that. It's also not being a doormat. Well, I'll forgive you for beating me up. Okay, that's perfectly all right, but you don't have to stay there. If you're in an abusive relationship, whether it's at work or at home or someplace else, you might really need to work on forgiveness, but that doesn't mean you have to stay there and get another one. Forgiveness offers you the opportunity. Forgiveness and victimhood don't go together. Forgiveness is empowerment. I can't control your behavior, but I can control whether I stay here or whether I leave. I can control whether I forgive you, whether I let go of the burden of my own anger and my own fear and my own resentment against you and whatever you did to me. I can let go of that, I can release that, but that doesn't mean I have to go back and get it again. Victimhood and freedom and forgiveness do not exist in the same category. It's not a feeling all the time. Sometimes I can forgive you and I'm still holding on to some anger or fear or resentment. I might have to work on that some more. It's not just an emotion. It's something that you don't do forgiveness out of your little personality self. You do forgiveness out of the divine consciousness of the truth of who you are. And in some ways you also see the other person in the truth of who they are, even if they can't see that themselves. That's where real forgiveness takes over. When I'm willing to hold you in the light, even though you can't even see that yourself. Am I willing to do that? Am I willing to see you beyond even the way you see yourself? Am I willing to see you beyond your anger, beyond your egotism, beyond your fear, beyond your self-righteousness? Am I willing to do that? That's forgiveness. And if you get a sense of that, just even a little sense of that, you get a sense of how powerful that is, because it frees me up from the burden that I've been carrying around about you. But it takes a whole different sense of consciousness to be able to do that, rather than just my personality, which is continually going to be clinging to right, wrong, good, bad, black, white, this, that. There's a marvelous phrase in 12-Step Recovery that says something to the effect of, even to become attached to justified resentment is a luxury we could ill afford. So even though you might be justified in being angry or being resentful, can you really afford to do that? Because there's such a fine edge between that and judgment, of falling into that trap again, that it suggests, don't even do that one. Immediately when you find yourself getting into anger or fear, resentment or separateness, get into forgiveness. Don't even try to analyze whether or not you're justified in feeling the way you're feeling. Because if you haven't gotten it yet, it's not about the person out there someplace. It's about me. It's about you. Forgiveness, I can forgive you or forgive your actions towards me. I don't know what that's going to do for you or to you. It might do something and it might not. But the reality of things, I'm doing that for me. It's like that marvelous story of the two Tibetan Buddhist monks who got away from a Chinese communist prison camp. And one of them said to his older brother, said, "Have you forgiven your captors?" And he said, oh no, I could never forgive them. And his brother looked at him somewhat compassionately and somewhat sadly and said, well, they're still holding you hostage. As long as I am not forgiving, I am being held hostage by my fear, my resentment, my anger, my attachment, sometimes to being right. The way Thomas Merton put it, which was so exceptional, and I love this particular piece, he said, the arrow which I shoot my enemy has to pass through my own heart first. And there's no other way that can happen. The arrow which I shoot my enemy has to pass through my own heart first. And so here's a couple of questions to ask yourself, because I've asked myself these questions too, and I come up with some answers that I'm not terribly fond of, but they're the truth. What's holding me hostage today? What am I railing against? What am I angry? Would you see what so-and-so said today? What am I angry about? What grievances am I holding? What fear of the future am I feeding? All of those are reflections of my need for forgiveness. Am I willing to do that? Am I willing to open myself up to that as being the truth? Forgiveness is not running away from my woundedness, because I don't want to pretend that I'm not wounded sometimes. Forgiveness is having the energy to be able to heal my woundedness. And so we might need to ask ourselves, and this might be different for each one of us, what do I need to heal today within myself? And find some ways of being able to do that. For instance, let's suppose I'm working on healing some childhood woundedness that's still maybe unfinished. Well, maybe finding a charity that serves little children, educating children or something, and finding out a little bit more about that, maybe contributing to that, maybe doing some volunteer work, some ways of being able to let go or to release that stuff that I've been holding on to. Find what works for you, what frees you up. We already know what keeps you in chains. What frees me? What allows me to look at myself and look at the world differently than what I might have before? It's about me, not about you. But once I'm willing to own my own humanity, my own screw-ups, my own mistakes, the burdens that I've created for myself to carry, once I become aware of that and once I've accepted responsibility for that, it makes it so much easier for me to accept you for where you are. I've been in pain, so have you. I've been lost, I've been angry, I've been hurtful. I've been all of the things that I'm accusing you of. Once I realize my own humanity and work on the sense of forgiving myself or releasing that or letting it go, it's going to be much easier for me to let you go as well. So I'd like to just keep our focus on forgiving ourselves first. The other stuff will take care of itself later on. But if we can just focus on forgiving ourselves, all of the other stuff will be taken care of. Don't worry about forgiving somebody else for now. That might be too difficult, it might be too strange, it might feel too weird. Start with you. What would it be like to live with your own grievances against yourself? To really be conscious of them. To recognize the ones that you've piled up years after years after years after years. I don't know about you, but the grievances I've created myself just in the past couple of weeks or so are pretty heavy. What about the ones that I piled up for myself the past 77 years? Oh, as I said before, no wonder I'm depressed. No wonder I'm angry. No wonder I'm hurtful. No wonder I'm wrapped up in my own self-pity. No wonder something minor can throw me off and out of sorts. Self-forgiveness is simply a reflection of not buying into all of that negative stuff that we've fed ourselves, maybe for a lifetime. Forgiveness is reminding myself I am a divine child of God. Forgiveness allows me to create an atmosphere, an internal atmosphere and an external atmosphere of being compassionate, of being loving, of being gentle, of being peaceful, of being strong. The people you know in your life, the people people you love to be around, are people who are living in forgiveness as a lifestyle. They don't have any baggage, or at least a lot less than most people do. The people who are carrying a whole bunch of stuff around, you see them walking down the street and you know exactly what's going to happen. You're going to say, "How are you?" and they're going to start to tell you. And it's not what you want to hear. And so you're going to be walking to the other side of the street. The people we love to be around are those people who are free. Now, we might get a certain amount of vicarious enjoyment about playing Ain't It Awful with somebody, but after a while that becomes pretty tiresome for them as well as for you. And we're asking you right now to stop playing that with yourself, because it works both ways. When Peter asked Jesus, "How many times should I forgive my brother? 7 times?" Kind of waiting for a nice pat on the back. And Jesus said, "No, I tell you 70 times 7, which is a mystical number, which means practically, out of the ballpark. You keep forgiving until you don't need to forgive anymore. You keep letting go until you don't need to let go anymore. You keep healing until you don't need to heal anymore." As one wise master once said, if you want to have one rule to follow in your life, if you even want to call it a rule, or one sense of truth you want to follow in your life, to be the best possible you can be, forgive yourself again and again and again and again and again. And you forgive yourself until you don't need to forgive yourself anymore. And when you finally get to a place, I'll certainly let you know this, when I finally get to a place where I don't need to forgive myself anymore, I will be in that place where I am open to and radiating unconditional love, time and time again. And so right now I am still and continually using that tool of forgiveness because it's still something that I need. And there will come a day when you and I don't need it anymore, because we will be living in the truth of who we are. All of this is so totally summed up in a story that was told to me by Jack Poole years and years ago. It's about a psychiatrist, medical doctor, who lived in Hawaii. His name was Dr. Lin. And he was hired by a hospital there, a hospital for the criminally insane, to be the head therapist. That doesn't sound like a very inviting kind of job, certainly didn't for me. I mean, these were violent characters. He decided to take on the job, which he did. And after about 3 years or so, they had to close the hospital down because there were no more inmates. He didn't psychoanalyze anybody. He didn't see any patients individually. What he did was, first of all, he came in contact and awareness of an ancient form of Hawaiian healing that is sometimes referred to as Hooponopono. And this is sort of the shortened version. He created a little mantra for himself that said very simply, "I love you. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you." In other words, I'm so sorry for judging you, because I begin to realize that me judging you puts you in a place where you don't want to be either. And he made that his mantra. By the way, I use that every night before I go to sleep at night. That's what I go to sleep with every evening, every night. I love you. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Doesn't matter if it has a context that I'm consciously aware of. That doesn't matter. The truth of it is I am releasing whatever I need to release. And I don't know about you, but it brings me a tremendous amount of peace. What he did was he walked the hallways of this criminally insane hospital, of these violent characters yelling and screaming in their own little padded cells, saying under his breath to himself, "I love you. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you." Again and again and again and again. Until one person by the next started getting healthier starting getting less violent, became willing to go to trial for their crimes, or able to be moved to another facility which was much more light, airy, peaceful. He said, I did not heal them. I healed the part of myself that created them. We hear this in Unity all the time. If you're seeing war outside there, guess where it's coming from? Right here. If you see conflict out there, guess where it's coming from? Right here. What would it be like if I had no internal conflict? Would I see any external conflict? I might see a lot of people in pain. Would I see war? Would I see hatred? Would I see anger? Would I see fear? Not if there's any inside of me. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that tremendously challenging, but I do believe that possibility exists. I didn't heal them. I healed that part of myself that created them. How can I love my neighbor if I'm still judging them? Forgiveness is a lifestyle. It's loving all beings without exception. Forgiveness heals everything. For me, it's releasing what no longer serves me. I can't have gratitude without forgiveness. There's a school in Buddhism that sometimes is called Mahayana, sometimes translated as being the big boat or the great vessel. And instead of focusing on personal enlightenment, it says this: the boat doesn't leave until everybody's on it. So it's about knowing that we are all connected. And it's not my enlightenment or even my forgiveness. It is me embracing the truth of who I am and making room in that awareness, making room for you to embrace the truth of who you are. The boat doesn't leave until everybody's on it. God, I find that so beautiful. I could be sitting here and saying, well, it's time to leave now. Not leaving yet until we're all on the boat. Until we are all in forgiveness. Until we are all willing to let go of one another's stuff. Certainly let go of my stuff. Can we be a little bit lighter today? Can we be a little bit lighter this morning? Can we be a little bit lighter with the ones we love? And even, can we be a little bit lighter with the ones we don't love? And find out that I really can love them beyond my personality, because I can go beyond. I can forgive you for thinking you're just a personality, because I need to forgive myself for thinking that I'm just a personality. I know you are a divine child of God, even though I can't see it. Can I forgive you for whatever gets in the way of that? Can I forgive myself for whatever gets in the way of it for me? I'd like to close with a quote from Dr. David Hawkins. He says this: make a gift of your life and lift all mankind, lift everyone, by being kind, considerate, forgiving, and compassionate at all times, in all places, and under all conditions, with everyone as well as yourself. That is the greatest gift that anyone can give. I say that again. Make a gift of your life and lift all mankind by being kind, considerate, forgiving, and compassionate at all times, in all places, and under all conditions, with everyone as well as yourself. That is the greatest gift anyone can give, especially to us. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be free of suffering. And may all beings remember who they are. God bless.